Swindon have won a game, and they've picked the day to do it, the day we decide to record our first On the Whistle review. So I'm joined by Rich, Christian, Adam and Kieran to talk Bristol Rovers 0, Swindon Town 1. Lads, it's a crucial win. I think that's fair to say, especially given the win the other day as well, 2 in a row. Ultimately, it's a massive 3 points, isn't it? Adam, let's start with you, just on the 3 points generally.
Well, I think even if you put the derby aside, you've got to look at the two. We were exactly tied, I think. I don't know if the goals for was the difference, maybe, but on everything. So this game was massive already. And the result itself, I don't know if we're going to address the performance later. I think the result is a good one away on a Tuesday night anywhere, regardless of whether it's only 40 minutes down the road. It's a good result, and I think what makes it a good result is the result on Saturday as well. So if we can keep that up, then yeah, by all means, who knows what happens this season. I won't get too carried away, because last time some fans got too carried away with winning 3 in a row, well, you know what happened there. But I feel a little bit better this time on the back of these 2 wins.
And viewers will be pleased to know that Kieran's internet problems from last time seem to be very much resolved. So let's hear him in all his glory. Kieran, what's your literally on the whistle reaction to that 3 points?
Oh, I'm absolutely delighted with getting the win and a clean sheet. I don't think you could have asked much more from that. And obviously, given the position both clubs were in, say, tied on pretty much everything, both sides had to go out and win it tonight. So I think it's massive that we were the ones that come out with it, and a good performance. And obviously, off the back of Saturday's result as well, which could go down as a bonus win, but helped us come into a better position for tonight's game. It's looking a lot better for us than it did a couple of weeks ago.
And Christian, picking up on a couple of things that the lads have said there, you mix the derby win in with beating a rival in the relegation scrap. Clean sheet. We literally could not have asked for much more, could we?
No, what more can you ask for? I'm just delighted that John Sheldon decided to stay on 2 weeks ago. 6 points since he almost quit.
Let's take a look a bit deeper into the game itself then. On the first half, it was definitely a tale of 2 halves. I mean, on the notes I've written down here, I've put that we offered very little in attack in the first half. What we did offer was very poor distribution in midfield, but particularly out wide. I thought Grant and I thought Thompson were very wasteful on the few opportunities they did have in the first half. But on the more positive side, defensively, I liked Grant in the free. In fact, I like the defensive free generally as a unit. I thought they looked good, and Landolo, I thought looked particularly strong. Adam, on the first half, were you confident that we were very much in the game, or were you concerned by the level of performance?
I was confident we were in the game. I actually said at halftime, I think we played okay in the first half. And I don't think either side played particularly bad in the first half, but there were bad performances by players on either side, if that makes sense. So I thought Thompson had a dreadful first half. There's no hiding from that. And I don't think Joel Grant was too particularly great either. But Bristol Rovers had a fair few who weren't that great themselves. But it felt like it had to be the first half. We had to go in 0-0 or winning to have a chance of winning the game for me. And we did that. In terms of moving on to the second half, it didn't start so great, but I guess we'll talk about the second half in a minute.
And I'm pleased to say we're joined by a debutant, one of the originals when I was setting up people who I wanted to invite onto these shows. Gary's with us. Evening, pal. How are you?
Evening all. I'm good, thank you.
We're just in the middle of discussing the first half performance before we get on to obviously the better things. What was your take on what you saw in the first 45?
I think we were disjointed the first half. I think we looked poor. I think Rovers had the edge definitely first half. We were definitely the poorer side. Second half definitely changed it, but we were struggling.
And Rich, if I come to you, I mentioned in my little bit there that I thought defensively we looked good in the first half. Was it that we looked good, or were Bristol Rovers quite poor?
I think we've got our heads screwed on more at the back now. I think we've got a voice at the back, whether or not that's Camp or Anthony Grant, both with tons and tons of experience. With two, let's face it, I mean, well, Ian Delay has been around the club for a while, but he's not particularly been in that position. And Akin Odemeo is still only 20 years old. So to have somebody at the back, even though it's not Anthony Grant's natural position, I believe that he knows that position. He's played that last season. And I think to have somebody like that in the core of your defence is absolutely pivotal at this point, considering we're in a relegation scrap. And to come out of that game with a positive result, we couldn't have asked for much better with that. And I think now, I don't want to say it, but Sheridan may have just cracked it. He might have found that defensive. I've probably just jinxed that now.
I'm just going to interrupt, and I've switched you guys can't see, but I've switched the recording back to gallery view, because as you said that, literally everybody else was like this. Ridiculous.
Had to be said though. It had to be said. But the thing is, though, that's the thing about it as well. I mean, we just look so much more compact. Whether or not whether or not we have cracked it or not, it doesn't matter. I mean, as long as we can keep that composure at the back, we've got a shot at this. We've got a shot at getting out of this scrap. And as I said, that result tonight, that was pivotal. That was so crucial. And to do it against, as you say, a rival, I didn't even see it as that going into this game. I completely forgot it was a derby. All I focused on was that it had to be a win. It had to be a positive result. It couldn't be a draw. It couldn't be a loss. It couldn't be nothing. And as I say, whether or not we've cracked it or not, doesn't matter. We've now got 10 days until our next game against Blackpool. Whenever we have a week's space, they seem to be going in our favour, like it was against Fleetwood. So we've just got to keep on going. The wheels are starting to turn now. So it's all down to Sheridan. It's all down to the team.
I'm absolutely loving the positivity oozing from you all for a change. Normally they're quite downbeats with what we have to talk about. But if I could just pick up on something you've said there, and Christian, I'll come to you as someone who's been on these pretty much since the start of these conversations. I've played a lot of Championship Manager in my time. I'm sure the younger ones would have played a fair bit of Football Manager or FIFA. We don't profess to know more, but each and every single one of us has said for the last 4 or 5 episodes, we need Grant back in the team, Anthony that is. And lo and behold, he's back in the team, and look what happens.
Yeah, look out! Him and Lee Camp back there look solid. They look like they're leading, they're guiding, they're talking, and it's bringing on players like Iandolo. He was fantastic tonight. He nearly blotted his copybook 5 minutes from the end with a loose pass. But apart from that, he's not a centre back. But having Grant there and Camp there, those good, steady, calm professionals has helped. And this is the first time we've had this conversation so many times where we normally cross to Woody and say, right, you're the coach. What were the tactics? Tonight, I think I knew what they were trying to do for the first time all season. Hallelujah!
And Kieran, again, picking up on something that Christian and I know Rich mentioned there, I got a text from my older brother who I keep trying to invite onto these. He will come on one day, I promise. He texted me when we signed Camp and said that he believed that having an experienced keeper could make all the difference. And he texted me again just before we came on to do this and said what a difference it made having him there. And I know in the group chat we were having before we came on, his name came up 5 or 6 times for different reasons as well. Do you see that as a pivotal signing, having him in now?
I think definitely having an experienced goalkeeper, because all season this year we've had all the guys we've had, they've been young chaps, and I think that makes a huge difference. I think last year we obviously had Bender, who was a young chap. I think he had a bit more experience and just a bit more about him, and he was quite shouty at the back. And obviously we had different people within that sort of back line last year as well. But if you've got no leaders in your centre backs and you've got no leader in your goalkeeper, you've sort of got 2 problems. But also your goalkeeper can see more of the game than anyone else can. They can see when you're out of positions. Whenever we've watched non-league football, the goalkeepers are some of the loudest on the pitch because they can see everything, and they're almost as good as the view of the manager. I'm not going to say when we signed Lee Camp, I was a little bit worried because I watched him at Sunderland and he couldn't catch a ball, but so far so good for me here. But I think I always wanted us to, when we were sort of going down, I wanted to sign a goalkeeper in January that was experienced, and then when it sort of came up, when we had the goalkeeper sort of crisis in the weeks where we lost we didn't have a goalkeeper, I was sort of on the boat of like, let's go and try and get an experienced free agent while we can. Obviously we've managed to do that. Obviously they do take a couple of weeks to get through, but I think that could be a massive change going forward for us, trying to stay up.
If we look at the second half, it was kind of cut into 2 sections for me. And again, I'll kind of give you all free rein to discuss whichever bits you were particularly focused on at the time. Firstly, I wrote disallowed goal. Because it wasn't great defending for the goal. We got very lucky, in my opinion. I'm not entirely sure it should have been disallowed. I'd like to see it again. I thought the coach staff were very slow to react. I thought Rovers were dominant in terms of possession and attacking intent for probably the first 10-15 minutes of the second half. Then Garrick finally came on, who I was particularly critical of last time, and I'm happy to hold my hands up and say, tonight, when he came on, game changer. It offered, we were all talking and we said, we need that outlet, we need that pace. I can't remember who it was, but one of the comments was having pace over skill at that point in the game was crucial because it just gave us an outball. And I thought he played very well. Even his hold-up play was better than I'd seen previously. We then went 1-0 up. I thought it was a decent finish. I think it was perhaps more luck than judgment at the time because obviously it was from the set piece. But I felt similar to what some of you have said. Moving away from that then, I thought we were quite comfortable. Yes, they probably had more of the ball than I would have liked in the closing stages. And there were 1 or 2 ropey moments. I know Christian mentioned the Gandolo header and there was maybe one or 2 other attempts. What I would like to highlight, and I don't know if any of you want to bring it up when I bring you in, just at the end, there was a goal-saving tackle, which was unreal. And I'm not going to attempt to pronounce the young lad's name because I will murder it and get it wrong. But I thought he played very well, as we've said, and that was a superb tackle. Adam, as Christian mentioned earlier, we tend to come to you about tactical stuff. Let's look at it from a positive. We've won, and all those things I said in the second half, the game plan finally came together.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to kill myself later for saying this, but do you know what? In terms of what Christian said earlier was spot on. We seem to have a game plan now going in with this 3-5-2, whatever formation you want to look at it as. It did work really well. And I think that's what got us through that horrible 15 minutes of the first half. And equally, that's where the likes of Camp, Grant, that's where you're looking at those guys to say, right, we're going for a sticky patch at this point in the game. You're going to pull us through it. There is no doubt, and I actually didn't see any of the replays of the offside goal, but I did see Lee Camp reacting after the goal went in. There is no doubt that he's put pressure on the linesman. There is no doubt about it, which is brilliant. That's the kind of experience we need, because when I was playing football 150 years ago, I was always told if you can intimidate the referee without offending him, you'll normally get him on your side. And I feel that Camp has always been really good at that throughout his career. It's not the first time he's got a decision overturned, you know, within a couple of minutes. So yeah, we had to soak up the pressure. I said quite loud, you know, I think we are under the cosh a little bit here. We're probably quite lucky that Bristol Rovers weren't that great with, you know, in the final third, and we may have been lucky with the offside goal. But you know, as Harry Redknapp once says, sometimes, you know, the luck falls in the right places, and it has this time. But yes, and the thing is with that substitution as well, I thought matey boy, what was his name, Garrick, sorry, did really well when he came on. But also the timing of the substitution was key. We made it in something with about half an hour left to go, which was massive, because Sheridan has, you know, and again, I'll give him his kudos here, but Sheridan has been known to make subs way too late that could potentially change the game. That was perfect timing to bring on somebody like that. We were a little bit under the cosh, and then we just needed someone that we could get rid of the ball to. And that's what happened when Garrett came on. Then we scored, and then I felt we controlled the game after that. Like, even when Rovers were on the attack, I thought we controlled the game. I was actually quite impressed with the last half an hour, to be honest.
It's a fair assessment, Christian, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely, totally agree. The game management was spot on. From when we, about 5 minutes before we took the lead until the end of the game, I thought the game management, the way they sort of closed it out was great. They applied a bit of pressure. Then about 6 minutes from the end, sat back a bit, but they still looked comfortable. It was impressive.
And Gary, is there anything you'd like to add to that? We were all sort of feeling really positive, which is unusual on these conversations.
Totally that. No, I think the good thing about Swindon, we've got pace towards late these games. You bring on Hope, you bring on Garrick, you can turn a game when teams are trying to come at you. And when it's certainly like tonight in a tight game, there's going to be 1-0 potentially. You needed the pace. Get out, attack them. So I think that's a positive tonight. Totally great game management of the game tonight. Did really well.
Kieran, there was one thing I forgot to mention as I went off on my spiel about the second half, and I don't know what your thoughts were, but just after the tackle that I mentioned, we went on the counter-attack, and Garrett got the ball on the wing and raced through, and he almost was in two minds about whether to run into the corner or play. I'm guessing it was possibly Pittman, who was on the left-hand side. And in the end, he kind of did neither. And it's just that decision-making which ultimately will make the difference in these final few games.
Yeah, so yeah, because when he ran down the wing, I was screaming for him to, as soon as if it's Pittman or Twine came into shot, I was screaming for him just to play the ball over to him. It would have dropped lovely for him, like, and it would have had a chance to score. But as he ran in, I think he should have. I think then he should have decided to shoot. But he's still in too many minds. And I think he didn't want to shoot and miss and then get berated for it if Rovers then collected the ball and did go up the other end. So he's sort of gone to play the pass too late. But yeah, I think that comes with experience. Obviously, he is quite a young lad still. I know he's had a bit of game times here and there, but you know, that's inexperience needs to sort of be talked about. And I hope they do when they go into sort of a video analysis session and they do sort of say there, look, pass here or carry on going and shoot. But hopefully that's something that the management team pick up on and get him to improve. I think if he does that, and he could have put us 2-0 up either way there. But I think he just made the best of both decisions in his head and has gone and crossed it ball. But that's the only sort of criticism I can have of him all night. But I think he's done that a few times as well in games before, which is perhaps why he was out the side and dropped and he didn't look like he was doing much. I think he did it a couple of times in the Oxford games where he could have passed or shot, but he decided to do sort of neither and done it, but either too late. But yeah, that'll come with experience and hopefully with more game time. Obviously, we're in a position where we can't really afford to have those mistakes. Because they could cost us in the long run, but hopefully with that one where he's had a good game, he can sort of lose confidence and get better at his decision making, either just go for the shot or go for the cross.
And Rich, I want to give you your chance to talk about the second half as well. And I know before we came on, you said there were certain patterns you were noticing, obviously from the weekend as well, that you wanted to bring up.
He's on mute.
Rich?
Yeah. I mean, just speaking on tonight, just very quickly before go on to Fleetwood. I mean, tonight, obviously, regarding the actual substitution between Garrick and Grant, obviously their left back I noticed was very leggy at the back. So I think the reason why I said pace over skill at this point, I think was always gonna be the match winner. Obviously, I know the original foul came from Twine, and can I just say what excellent bit of skill that was by Twine, just to get past the two defenders to go down for the foul, and then then Payne absolutely leathered one in. But yeah, I think just from the aspect of Fleetwood, obviously, I think against Fleetwood we were a little bit more attacking, but I guess we didn't have as much to lose against Fleetwood. Fleetwood was obviously a bonus. Even though they are down near where we are, there's still an awful lot of points between us and Fleetwood. So we need to keep on grinding. We need to keep on going. We need to keep on pushing, and we need to be going into these next few games, especially Blackpool on Good Friday. We need to absolutely go for it because we've got nothing to lose now. If we can start picking up points, I mean, back-to-back wins, let's just keep going and let's just keep seeing where we get to, I guess.
Away from the actual game, and I know this is something Christian in particular is really looking forward to talking about, we have to discuss the I'm trying to think of a fair descriptive word to describe the commentary that was available. Christian, what word, if I offered you one word to describe it?
Can I have more than one, please? It wasn't amazing, was it? But I think I spoke to you earlier, and I might not be the best person to speak about it because I grew up in the era of Roger Malone, and a lot of the people that watch and listen to this podcast will understand what I'm saying, that he was actually the worst commentator in the whole wide world ever, Roger Malone. Tonight, yeah, they weren't the best, were they? There was a lot of huffing and puffing from the co-commentator, where sometimes I wasn't quite sure what he was up to, like in his little room. But yeah, not the best.
It was a topic of conversation in the group chat, and just quickly, if I can, because I've switched back to gallery view again. How many of us did stick it out with the commentary? I was one. I was. Kieran had comms, no comms for Adam. Look, no comms, Rich. Gary, you something as well, Gary? What did you think to it, Gary?
I can't watch it without it. It just drives me mad. But they were terrible. I mean, the oohs and the ahs and it was just like it's like a fan watching a game. I felt like I was in the stands next to a Bristol Rovers fan.
Yeah, Kieran, I think that's fair. The way to describe it is it wasn't exactly unbiased, was it?
No, it wasn't unbiased. But then again, that's obviously going to be an issue where it's going to be sort of the away commentators doing it because of BBC Radio's ban with travelling to away games. But even then, it's just drivel, and like they say, the co-commentator was breathing heavily into his mic, and that's all you could hear at some points. The poor other guy was just like talking, and it because obviously the way the mics work, it just drowned him out. And it was just like, and there was points as well. They were going so quiet that I think there was a point in the first half before like even 5 minutes was up, and it was like their commentary had just gone dead. I was like they just fallen asleep and had enough of the game. And yeah, so it went on. They were just, I just don't know why. It was obviously heavily Bristol Rovers biased, but even that point, just like standing to co-commentate, either sound like he was asleep or he's just had enough and just breathing heavily into his mic. He needs to learn to take it away. But good luck to Bristol Rovers. I don't even think they'd put up with it. But I think some of them must sit there with it on mute, to be honest.
Just one last question. For you all, basically, before we go, that this is an on the whistle. It's a smaller episode than normal. 24 hours ago, none of the talk was on the derby. None of the talk was on a 6-pointer. It was all about Wellings in or no Wellings. Just briefly, I'll go in the order that I've got you here on the screen. Rich, what would be your thoughts if I offered you it now? Bear in mind, Sheridan just picked up 6 points from 6. Wellens in or no Wellens?
I would have to say Wellens in. It's obviously hard. Obviously, you look at Sheridan, obviously picking up back-to-back wins, but bear in mind we've had to deal with Sheridan since November, and his games have been so inconsistent. Give or take, we don't know what actually would have happened if Wellens had stayed. I don't take that for granted. I mean, I would love to see Wellens come back. I know the way he left, I get that, but in a way, it's well, we don't know the financials. But put it this way, we've got money for him, and now he's been sacked 5 months later, and he's free again. So we could get him back for a much cheaper price now. But yeah, no, it's a difficult one. But I would love to see Wellens come back, to be honest with you.
Christian?
Once a cheat, always a cheat. His last game when he was still under contract at Swindon Town was spent watching Salford City. He can go F himself. No chance. No, never.
Adam?
It's an interesting argument because I've never seen an ex-manager split a fan base so much. I'm not for him at all coming back. And a couple of reasons. One, because I'm a bit of a realist. I don't think Power would have him back anyway. 2, I kind of agree with Christian's point. I think, yeah, okay, the way he left, if we take aside the fact that he's chosen his family and possibly a potential future wage that he never actually ended up getting, he did effectively stitch whilst he was in duty. He decided not to attend a game, and it wasn't because he was isolating or anything like that. Because it's funny, I think when they did the post when he left and Vic Morgan did that thing with a supporters club, they didn't mention that at all, and there's a reason they didn't mention that. But yeah, I just think I'm not a big fan of having old managers come back anyway. I'm still against Di Canio. If we ever were linked with Di Canio again, I wouldn't want him back. The only manager I'd ever want back really is Martin Ling, and that's just because I had so much respect for him. But it's other than that, no. I think the Wellens era is gone now. If we got relegated down to League 2, maybe, but not whilst we're in League 1. We were 17th when he left. At the end of the day, we're now 18th or whatever. We're not exactly in a massively worse position. He wouldn't have been able to recruit the way he wants in January, which is probably one of the reasons he also left. But at the end of the day, football's a results-based business, and Gary Neville's gone back on his word where he believes that that managers should be given time, and then he's sacked a manager after 6 months. So fair play. He's got potential to be a great manager, but for me, I wouldn't want him back.
One thing I'd just pick up on there, Woody. I mean, there is one thing there is trust, and I would have a massive issue with that. Is that we wouldn't be able to trust him, and yeah, as you say, I think the way he went and that interview with Vic Morgan's a very good point actually, because he made an absolute bunch of excuses, which is quite annoying. But I can't take away of his style of football, the way.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, his style of football is class. But the problem is as well is what we've also got to look on the realistic side is if we did get rid of Sheridan, which I think is too late now, I don't think we will, but it would only be replaced by somebody on a short-term contract. We would never get anybody in at this stage of the season to last more than 2 years, last more than a year. Not many managers hanging around are going to want to hang around in a relegation battle for the next 3 months in the hope that they could be playing League 2, they could be playing League 1. I think we're stuck with Sheridan now. If he's turned it around, I'll stand up at the end of the season and applaud him. I wouldn't want him here next season, but I'll still applaud him. He's kept us up, but that's it. I don't think he's good enough to stay. But he's done what we all asked. 2 games ago, we were all saying, Sheridan, you need to do something. You need to do something, and he wasn't doing anything. He was messing up the lineup. He was messing up his tactics. And as we've said throughout this call today, the last 2 games we've kept 2 clean sheets. and we've actually played okay, as opposed to looking like a load of headless chickens on a field. So yeah, anyway, we're talking about Wellens.
Kieran, in or out?
No, I wouldn't have him back. Certainly not now, and I don't think I'd ever have him back at all, because you can't. The way he left it just left a bitter taste in the mouth. Like, it was brewing for such a long time, and when the initial sort of interest for Salford came about, it was the whole sort of no, I'm not interested whatsoever. Which is, I get that you're going to say that and stuff, but then the whole when he turned up to go watch them at Cambridge instead of even going down to watch us at Plymouth. If he didn't even come down to Plymouth, fair enough, but don't go and watch another team. And his whole spiel about loyalty, and I think it was brewing for a long time. I know he had that clause in his contract, but even Power sounded a little bit hard done by in a way, which like he was loving that he got some money, but I think it came about in a bit of a wrong way, and he's made his bed, go and lie in it. And I think you've got to stay, even if we don't want him here. If Sheridan left a couple of games ago and Wellens become available, would we have got him back then? But I think now with Sheridan staying, you've got to let him. Now he's got a couple of results, you've got to let him go with it. But yeah, and as Woody said as well, I don't want Sheridan here next year. If he keeps us up, I'll say fair play, well done, you turned it around when you really needed to. I don't want him here next year, no matter what division we're in. I don't think he's good enough. But whatever he's done for the last 2 games, for a guy that ran out of ideas, like compared to how broken he sounded on that Saturday, I don't know what he's done. Maybe he's given up something, but maybe he's given up something. But you know, for a guy that's ran out of ideas, he's got some new ideas. And I think some of us saw that lineup on Saturday, and you're like, yeah, you saw that lineup on Saturday, and you genuinely thought you'd lost it even more. But you know, it worked, and once you saw it in action, it worked even more.
Absolutely. Finally, Gary, your take on the situation?
Yeah, no, not for me. No, he's done. There's so many contexts we need to change for him to come back. We need new owners. We would need. Power's not going to take him back. To me, he's done. He's spent. He moved on. He chose to for that move away. So for me, no, he's not coming back. Power's not going back. It's not happening.
I think Power's a sucker, though. I think he'd have him back in a heartbeat.
Just try and sell him up again if it all goes well. Listen, lads, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed the chat as much as you enjoyed the game. That is our review of Bristol Rovers 0, Swindon Town 1, our first attempt at an on the whistle conversation. Gary, your first time with us. Thank you very much for joining, and I hope to see you again. And as for the rest of you guys, as always, been a pleasure, and we will be speaking again soon.
We got this, boys. We got this.
Cheers.
Come on.
We are staying up.